see you guys here tonight.
Hey.
Tall, dark, and handsome. SpongeBob thing. My life is riddled with quotes and images, and it will always be that way.
A little I can maybe go ahead.
Oh well. That's what happens, Trey. I'm sorry. That's what happens. Are we all ready? We're all ready, right? Because we're going to grab hold of these All-American church hymnals right here. We're going to look at page 34. 3-4. Get it rolling. The less time I'm up here, the less movie quotes you have to deal with, you see. Just don't make eye contact. There's within my heart a melody, Jesus whispers sweet and low. Fear not, I am with thee, peace be still, in all life and living. Boy, that was a tongue twister. Jesus, 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 sweetest thing I know, fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. All my life was wrecked by sin and strife, discord filled my heart with pain. Jesus swept across the broken strings, stirred the slumbering chords again. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know, fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. Feasting on the riches of His grace, resting beneath His sheltering wing. Always looking on His smiling face, that is why I shout and sing. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know, fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. Fourth one's the last. Though sometimes it leads through waters deep, trials fall across the way. Though sometimes the path seems rough and steep, see His footprints all the way. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know, fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. There's actually a fifth one, Pastor. You guys can catch up with it, right? I shall wing my flight to worlds unknown. I shall reign with Him on high. Jesus, 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 sweetest name I know, fills my every longing, keeps me singing as I go. That was exciting.
That was exciting.
That's called improv, guys. You did good. You did really good. You're not going to give yourselves a hand, though. Okay, you didn't do that good, I guess. Trey's like, you could have done better. Could have done better.
Always do better.
Since I'm picking on you so much, you want to open us up in prayer?
Sure.
Go for it.
Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for getting us all here safe, Lord. We thank you for this weather. We thank you for many blessings you blessed us with. And we ask you to please be with the service, Lord. In your name we pray.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Pastor.
got some natural born comedians around here. And they're all trying to take a young lady's place because she is the best comedian of them all. Right, Randy? Listen, I've heard some of those comments you give to your younger brother. Anyway, prayer request. Yes, sir.
Unspoken from my family.
All right, unspoken. Yes, sir.
Unspoken for Jonathan Best. Unspoken for him, and be praying for that.
And your brother,
Yes.
because he's got that big inventory that he's all.
No, well, I think that's a praise. He actually finished that.
He finished it.
They were able to finish it a little earlier than they normally did, and I believe it's a praise because I believe he got. But he can tell you about it. But I think he got a good report on it. Very good report.
All right.
So I'll give him. He can praise it if he wants to.
And he's not listening to you, right? Miss Wendy, we'll have to wait. Miss Wendy, did you have your hand up?
I was going to ask about Jessica. That's
Well, Travis may have a little more on that, but she did have some blood in her home, and then she ended up having to go back.
okay. I didn't mention that.
So she went back, and I don't know if she's been re-released, but either way, she needs prayer. So pray for Rhonda too,
Yeah.
as well. Pray for Rhonda.
Also pray for Willow, my 2-year-old grandbaby. She's going for oral surgery tomorrow in Charleston. Rain has to take her out there. Just pray for her.
Anybody else? Oh, do I? Well, okay. My mom's surgery went well. She spent the night in the hospital. That's all that Mrs. Cheney could handle. You know, she caused such a ruckus in the whole hospital that she had to go home. She wasn't on her floor, just in general. You know, all the nurses got tired of her. And she is home. My dad is not here because he has come down with the flu-like symptoms again, and he's not feeling well. And then my aunt from Oklahoma City, one of the two. Well, she's the only one I think lives in either Norman or Oklahoma City. The other one lives in Midwest City. Anyway, she is coming to stay a couple of I don't know, days, weeks, whatever it may be, to kind of help my mom out as far as doing some cooking, because my dad's cooking not very good. But she is about 3 or 4 hours out, so she's having to drive through all this rainy weather. So please keep her in your prayers. Personally have 2 unspoken. Oh, one other one. Pray for Lily. She's at a funeral. One of the ladies, an older lady that's a coworker of her at the Korean restaurant, passed away, and she's at her funeral. So, and she went to the Korean church. I don't know what all they believe. I don't know how, not a Catholic Korean church, but a Christian Korean church, so I don't know. But do keep her in your prayers too. Any other prayer request? Everybody happy with the dreary, rainy weather? I do know one person who wishes for it to stay this cold or colder. church has funds to send these 3 to Antarctica. Let's go ahead and just send them now. No. Yes, sir.
Be praying for folks in the Caribbean, Jamaica, and be with everyone, but also missionaries that may be in those regions as well. It's a pretty tough storm.
Okay. Any other prayer requests? Brother Travis, would you pray for these? I have a $64,000 question for you.
I need it. I need it. Nobody raise their hand. Let's give it a shot.
How many of you have been asked a question along the lines of, you think, them person telling you, you think that only Christians go to heaven? What about that little boy in Africa, or somebody who has never heard the gospel? Is God going to cast them into hell? How many have been asked that question? Never been asked? Never been sitting there having to, you guys are so lucky. Huh?
Yeah. Having to try to make sense of it.
Yeah. And how to answer. I watched a person who an apologist for the Christian faith. I don't know how liberal or how conservative he is, but he was asked that question, and in my heart, it felt like he kind of wandered and meandered a little bit and didn't lay down a good, logical reasoning for his answer. And in the day and time we live in, if you don't have someone in your family, you will shortly have someone in your family who isn't going to believe in God, believe the Bible, or believe any of that, and they're going to get you with that kind of question. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I got a lot of verses. I don't know if I'm going to go through all of them, make it through all of them or not, but I want you to start thinking, how would you answer that question? Now, if you're like me, my dad didn't teach me this, but I just know in the independent Baptist circles, a lot of times a preacher would sit there and say that the Old Testament Jew is looking towards the cross, we look back to the cross, and that's how they answered it. And there's only one problem with that. If you try to find any scripture verses in the Old Testament that say anything like that, you won't find any. You'll have egg on your face. But I do believe that we can come with a clear exact. And matter of fact, you've heard me say this before, where the key to salvation is someone believing that God is who he says he is. And number two, that he will keep his promises. And I was wondering how in the world I even came to that thought, because that's something that my dad or any pastor that I've ever sat and listened to never have said. That's not something I've ever heard from any other pastor. And I want you to see it tonight. We're going to start in Genesis chapter 4, verse 3. This is dealing with Cain and Abel. And this is really the crux of, in this picture here, what I want you to see is those people who are saying, what I do, that's enough to get me to heaven. I can do it my way, as I always joke and teach you guys about the old Frank Sinatra song. But look what happens here. It says in Genesis 4:3, it says, in the process of time it came to pass that Cain brought forth the fruit of the ground, an offering unto the Lord. And as someone has rightly pointed out, this is before the law of Moses. They did have grain offerings and all this, and we do not know this offering. It's not necessarily a sin offering, because it doesn't say that it is. So this isn't, and a lot of us will instantly think of the law of Moses and say, well, Cain's offering wasn't accepted because it was not of the animals. It was not a goat. It wasn't a sheep or anything like that. But this is just a general offering. And he gave of the fruit of the ground. And it says there in verse 4, and Abel also brought forth the firstling of his flock and of the fat thereof, and the Lord had respect unto Abel's offering, respect unto Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect, and Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And look what happens here. Now for us, both gave an offering to God. Both made an assumption that what they did was right to God, but God accepted Abel's offering versus Cain's offering. Now, I did a deep dive, and no, I don't know Hebrew. I read a bunch of people who do know Hebrew and parsed all the words and everything else. And it struck me where one of the Bible scholars translating that particular passage there, let's see if there in verse 4, if this helps you understand the difference between the two offerings. You remember, Cain gave an offering of the fruit, the vegetables that he had grown in his garden. That's what it says, right? He brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. Generic, plain. There in verse 4, and Abel, he also brought of the choicest of his flock and the fat thereof. Do you see a difference? Do you recognize the difference there? We think firstlings as far as, well, I've been around animals, and I can tell you, unless you see them be born, and if it's a group of animals, it would be real hard to know which one. If any of you have ever had an old mama dog give birth to puppies, unless you were there, you don't know which one was the first one, and you don't know which one was the last one. But what Abel gave was of his best, of his finest. And the Lord accepted that offering because it was Abel's best. Whereas Cain just gave fruit of it, and I suspect, because the writer doesn't tell us anything more about it, but I suspect what Cain did is he had gathered up, oh, this is the great, vegetables, whatever it may be. That was not, let's put it over here, and took this, because God's not going to eat it anyway. It's just going to be offered to him, but he's not eating it, right? And they give that as an offering, and of course God refused it. Why? Because I suspect that Cain gave his leftovers, whereas Abel gave his best. And the Lord was pleased with that best, not the leftovers. Because it tells you what priority, or how much do you believe in God? How much you trust God? Abel said, I have great respect, I believe, and I trust God. I'm going to give him my best. And, Isn't that what happens a lot in churches today and with people and dealing in their walk with God? You have some people who take seriously their walk with God, but then you have other people who will sit there and claim to be Christians, but they do it whenever, right? And we know that one pleases God and the other one does not. That's very, very clear. Now, a lot of people gravitate towards the law of Moses. And that's what they think, well, if you kept the law of Moses, then you'd be saved. The only problem with that is that Abraham was around long before the law of Moses, and he didn't know all the law. Now, did he? He didn't have that. You have other people, like Joseph. He didn't have the law of Moses, but we know he's there in heaven, right? I want you to see something, and there in Psalms, let me get there for you. It'll be Psalms 31. And the reason why is I want you to start seeing a pattern. And this is what the Lord is looking for. Psalms 31:14. It says, "But I trust in thee, O Lord. I said, thou art my God. Many times in thy hand. Deliver me from the hand of my enemies and from them that persecute me." What is that claim that psalmist is making? I trust in thee, right? He's not saying to God, I've done all these sacrifices for you. I have fulfilled the law, Lord. Please, take care of me. When he wants deliverance from these enemies, what argument is he giving to God to say, hey, I want your help and for you to help me? Anybody? Huh? Yes. It's that I trust in thee. Let's look at another, and a bunch of these. And by the way, this is not an exhaustive list. I stopped. All right? Don't worry. But let's look at Psalms 37 and 5 and 6. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. And he shall bring forth thy righteousness as a light, and thy judgment as the noonday. What does he give here? What does the psalmist say? Commit your way, commit how you live your life to God. And trust also in him. It isn't into a person, but it is into God. What's the key there? Trust. Right? The biggest thing that I think that a lot of people who say that what about this or what about that, the key part is, are they trusting God? Is that person who is saying, well, I'm going to do it my way as far as getting to heaven, are they trusting God or not? Truth of it is, a lot of times, no. What are they putting their trust in? Something that they are doing. And this goes for religious folks too. Well, I gave to the church. I did all this for the church. I did this. I did that. And it's all about them, but none of it is that trusting of God. Your salvation, my salvation, is predicated in foundation is that we trust God that he will do what he says. All right? I mean, think about this for a moment. If God said, if the way you're going to get to heaven is I want you to go over here and stand on your head. It'd be difficult for me and my age, but if that's what God said, if we went and did it, now, does the standing on the head do anything for you and I? Probably give us a headache and hurt. But it doesn't. What's the key there? Trusting God that he will do what he says. I didn't put in the list as far as about Abraham, because I've beaten that one 11 times so that if you don't know about Abraham, I can't help you. Think about it, in the Old Testament, the key, like, let's pick on Balaam. We know he was a servant of God. God talked to him. God spoke to him. An angel appeared in front of him, about ready to kill him, and his donkey is the one that saved his life. He didn't have the Old Testament. He didn't have a Bible. But what was the thing that he kept on telling Balak about? I cannot say anything that God has not spoken to me. His trust had to be in who? In God. What I want you to see, folks, is that for you and I, our salvation is based on that trust. Now, all of us, especially if you've been saved any length of time, we have trust issues, don't we? Okay, I got one who admits they got trust issues like me. The rest of you guys are perfect. Thank you. No, we all have trust issues, don't we? I mean, every one of us who's been saved for any length of time, we doubted our salvation, have we not? The truth of it is, what are we truly doubting? Whether we can trust God or not. That's the truth. That's why I reminded you and beat it over your head as far as with Abraham. About even though he was not perfect, he was counted, as far as in God's eyes, and that's the only eyes that matter, that he was righteous. Your righteousness, my righteousness, it comes from God. It isn't mine. It's not like I've earned this, Here's my righteousness, it's good enough. I got to heaven with it. No. I trust in God's righteousness that I am saved. And since he does all the work, guess what? I can't lose it. It's in his hands. And in the other ones, and I'm just going to give the highlight on each one of these. We were in Psalms 37, 5 and 6, in Psalms 56, 3 and 4, it says, I trust in thee. Then here's a good one. The time I'm afraid. All of us have been afraid, haven't we? Well, except for Mrs. Cheney. I mean, anybody who handle all those animals and creatures and snakes and all that, we know she has no fear. But the rest of us who are afraid, what does he say? I will trust in thee. And I don't know about you. Sometimes I get a little nervous when in the dark in the woods. Because I've had people come out and grab you all of a sudden, start laughing. You had that happen to you once or twice. It will make you always on high alert, won't it? But when I'm afraid, or when you're afraid, do you not ask, Lord? Come on, Lord, help me. What is it? Trust in me. Look what it says there in Psalms 62:8. What does it say? Trust him in all times, ye people. Pour out your heart before him. God is the refuge for us. Trust in him always. That's what, and I'm glad I chose the ones in the book of Psalms, because the law of Moses is already there, right? It's been around for a while. All the Psalms, most of them, are in King David's, King Saul's, Solomon's day. The system has been in place for a few years, right? And none of these verses, none of these things that are pointing to the Hebrew people, it not one time says, trust the system. Be like us trusting the federal government. That ain't going to happen very well. But look, what does the psalmist point to? Putting your faith and trust in the Lord. There in Psalms 118, 8 and 9. It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man. That is not more truer statement than anybody can say, is it not? What's the next verse there? Verse 9. There it is. It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in princes. Boy, we know that one too, don't we? Everybody who works for the federal government knows that one quite well. The princes ain't paying, are they? Let's look at Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thy heart and lean not unto what? Thine own understanding. In all the ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. Right? All of it is you and I trusting God. And what I'm here to tell you is when the Lord says that Christ paid the penalty and to believe on what he did in the cross, the bottom line is, are you trusting him that's it? That covers it? That covers my debt, that covers my sin. In the end, it's the same trust that Abraham had to have. It's trusting God to do what he said. Now, Abraham had a tangible thing that he could see in his lifetime. He had a son. But of course, he didn't have the Bible. He didn't have the story about himself. He didn't have all that other stuff. But we have God's Word. And what we see again in the Old Testament and the New Testament is always about trusting him. And that's what we need to see. Last one, as far as on the trust part, is Isaiah 26, 3 and 4. The reason why I gave this one is they're about ready, or we've already seen what happens to them. They're going into captivity. What does he say? Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose minds stay on thee, because he trusteth. And Chris Branton, right? No, don't say that. Wasn't around at that time. It says, trusteth in thee. Talking about in God. The whole thing I want you to see is from the height of the nation of Israel. You know, in King David's day, in Saul's day, in Solomon's day, when all the Psalms were written, the main focus is always trusting the Lord. It has nothing to do, I'm not saying, that the Jewish people should toss out the Torah and the law and all that. No, I'm not saying that. But for your salvation and what God counts is that action of trust. Now let's look at the other part. Believe. Look at Numbers 20, verse 12. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, because ye believe me not, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel, therefore ye shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them. What happened? What stopped Aaron and Moses from going into the promised land? Huh? They didn't believe. Kind of the opposite of trust, isn't it? The very opposite. Look in Deuteronomy 1:32. Yet in this thing did ye not believe what? The Lord your God. So what issue, what problem do we have here? Come on. It can't be Brother Grant. He's already spoken. Disbelief. Yeah, disbelief. The thing that causes people to end up dying and going to hell is because they don't believe what God has said. They basically have done just like what we saw, and this is the sad thing. We know that Cain and Abel had verbal communication with God. They may not have been in the garden anymore, but God still spoke to them. And here we have Cain, who hears from God himself. But because of that sacrifice that he gave, it wasn't his best, and he basically was giving, And then it's when God confronts him about it, that what it is your attitude towards me, your lack of believing and trusting in me. What does Cain do? He gets on his knees and repents and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, Lord, it's my fault." No. He goes and kills Abel. What did Abel have to do with any of this? Nothing. But the whole thing of it is that because they don't believe. Look there in 2 Kings 17:14. Notwithstanding, they would not hear, but hardened their necks in the neck of their fathers, and they did not believe in the Lord their God. Sounds like a whole lot of trust there, don't it? Or should I say a whole lot of lacking of trust. They didn't believe him. They didn't trust him. They trust not. Let's look at Numbers. I'm going to take a little bit of time with this one, because this is where we all find ourselves. And Christ used this one. Numbers 21. Starting in verse 4. Now they had a victory in in the very first part of Numbers 1. So they should all be on a high plateau, right? And they journeyed from the Mount Hor by the way of the Red Sea to compass the land of Eden. And the soul of the people, which was much discouraged because of the way. So the environment they were in made them discouraged. And as someone who has been in the Middle East, farther south than this, but in the near the empty quarter of Saudi Arabia, I guarantee you, yes, that land can discourage you. All right? It is not an encouraging place. And what happens to them? In verse 5. And the people spake against God and against Moses. Wherefore hath he brought us up out of the land of Egypt to die in the wilderness? The question. Now wait a second. What does that, what do they just do right there? Come on, it's pop quiz time. Huh? Stop believing, stop trusting, didn't they? And by the way, I don't fault them, because I can tell you that barren and wasted land of the Middle East, what it does perfectly give the look of wanting death, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's desolate. But I mean, you do see dead carcasses of animals. Yes. And I don't mean ones with bullet holes. They just died because of lack of water or whatever. So what happens? Why do they complain? For there is no bread, neither is there any water, and our soul loatheth this light bread. This light bread being that manna. So the Lord has already provided them manna. So we know He will provide the water too. But they complain because they can't have the bread that they got. I don't know why. I don't think manna would be better than bread, that they would do themselves. But what do I know? And what happens to this lack of faith, this lack of trust, this lack of belief in God? And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much of the people of Israel died. Therefore, the people came to Moses and said, We have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and unto thee and against thee. Pray unto the Lord that He take away the serpents from us. And Moses prayed for the people. And the Lord removed the serpents, didn't He? He didn't. They had a trust problem, didn't they? They had a belief problem, didn't they? And so the Lord's going to show them in spades to find out for themselves, not that He already knew who believed Him and who didn't. How does He do it? How does He show them about faith and trust in Him? The Lord said unto Moses, Make thee a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole, and it shall come to pass that every one that is bitten, when he looketh upon it, what will happen? Huh? Shall live. Now, let's be blunt and honest here. Is there anything special in that grass that will cure you of a snake bite?
Probably not.
No probably about it. It's guaranteed there's nothing in it. And that pole, is there any special magical part in that pole that the brass serpent's on that will save them?
Probably not.
Absolutely not. But now, look at this for a moment, folks. What is He asking, what is God asking them to do?
Trust in what He's saying.
Huh?
Trust that what He said He would do.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. Look at this serpent, that brass serpent. And you don't know how good of a craftsman that Moses is. So it could be a sorry looking serpent. We don't know. All right? And it's on this pole. And the Lord tells Moses, and Moses tells the people, you get bit by a snake. We've already seen a bunch of them die. You get bit by the serpent. All you got to do is look at that pole and you will live. That's putting your faith to the test, isn't it? I wonder how many of them die because they tried to go to Baptist Medical Center, Richland Memorial, try to do all the antidote, antidote concoctions and everything that they had back then. And how many of them died because they wouldn't look? Now, here's the thing. It doesn't say how much they trusted him. You notice that? It doesn't say you've got to look at it and believe with all your heart. It doesn't say how great your faith is. What it does say is, if you look, you live. Think about that. And Moses made a serpent of brass and put it upon the pole, and it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when did it happen? When he beheld the serpent of brass, he lived. When he looked. That's where we get that song, look and live, my brother live. Look to Jesus now and live. It's recorded in his word, hallelujah. This last one, with this I close, because I want to give, because that's the Jewish people, right? That's not us Gentiles. We're special, right? Look at 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 1. We've heard about this one, haven't we? Now Naaman, the captain of the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master, honorable, because by him the Lord had given him deliverance unto Syria, and he was a mighty man in valor, but he was a leper. So here, this Syrian, mighty man of valor, much victories, has all this, but he's got a problem. He's a leper. And the Syrians had gone out by companies and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid, and she waited on Naaman's wife. But she thought, woe is me, right? Here she was in the promised land with God's chosen people, and she gets out as a slave to Naaman's wife. Terrible lot, isn't it? Let's look, though. And she said unto her mistress, Would God of my Lord were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he would recover him of his leprosy. And one went in and told the Lord, saying, Thus and thus saith the maid, that is of the land of Israel. So that her pining, saying, hey, if only my master would go and see the prophet there in the land of Israel, God would heal him. What is she showing? Trust. I've read through the Bible a couple of times. I never see before this where God says to this maid, excuse me, you go ahead and just tell your master to go. Has anybody else been cured with leprosy? As far as just, hey, go see the prophet. That's right. There in verse 5, and the king of Syria said, go to Go, and I will send a letter unto the king of Israel. And he departed and took with him 10 talents of silver and 6,000 pieces of gold and 10 changes of raiment. So we know a talent is what, about 70 something pounds? That's a lot of silver and a lot of gold. He brought a lot of wealth with him. And he brought a letter to the king of Israel, saying, Now when this letter is come unto thee, behold, I have wherewith sent my Naaman, my servant, unto thee, that thou mayest recover him of his leprosy. Now, I want to tell you right now, I do not blame the king of Israel for having a very bad day. But that's not what the little servant girl told him, right? No, it was a prophet, not the king. And when it came to pass, when the king of Israel read the letter, that he rent his clothes and said, Am I God? He's a smart man. To kill and make alive, that this man doth send unto me to recover a man of his leprosy? Wherefore consider, I pray you, and see how he seeketh a quarrel against me. The king of Israel is assuming that this is a setup. Because if you want to invade me, and you want an excuse to invade me. In verse 8. And it was so, when Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had rent his clothes. Boy, gossip travels fast, doesn't it? That he sent the king, saying, Wherefore hast thou rent thy clothes? Let him come now to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel. And I bet there was a huge sigh of relief from the king. Get this man out of here, because I can't cure him of leprosy. Go see the prophet. So Naaman came with his horses and with his chariot and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. And Elisha sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go wash in the Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come forth to thee, and thou shalt be clean. Elisha don't even see the guy. He sent him his servant. That was rude. This guy has traveled all the way to see you and to be healed by you, and you're not even going to take the time to look at him. You'll verify it's leprosy or something. That's how Naaman saw it, because look, verse 11. But Naaman was wroth and went away and said, Behold, I thought he would surely come out to see me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God and to strike his hand over a place and recover the leper. What was he expecting? A big show. And isn't that what we see in churches today in a lot of places? They give a big show, don't they? Oh, I know the guy was there. And you should have seen that service. The band was great. The music was great. The smoke and the lights. I didn't know that there was a church that did that, but, well, oldest daughter told me, yes, there is. Wow, God was there. Not. And he goes on. Verse 12, Are not Alba and Paphar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? May I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned and went away in rage. Right now, how much trust does Naaman have in God? 0. None. He doesn't believe at all. What happens? Verse 13. And his servants came near and spake unto him and said, My father, if the prophet had bid thee to do some great thing, wouldest thou not have done it? How much rather then, when he said to thee, Wash and be clean? They used what would have been his pride to make him wake up for a moment. What stops so many people from getting saved is because I would have done this great thing or that great thing for salvation, wouldn't it? And all God is asking is what? Wash and be clean. Very simple, isn't it? It's not requiring anything really of you, is it? Who saved this man? Technically correct, yes, the Lord did. But in this conversation here, who convinced this man to do what God's prophet told him to do? His servants. And I don't know how much faith or trust that they had in God, but they basically said, whoa, boss. He's not asking, if he had asked you something great, you would have done it. All he's asking you is go dip in the river 7 times. That ain't nothing. Well, we got to pass by it anyway as far as on our way home. Why not try it? It ain't going to hurt nothing, is it? Just be a little wet. And in the hot Middle East, wouldn't you like to be soaking wet a little bit? Brother Grant says yes, I agree. Look what happens. Then he went down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God. And his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was cleaned. If the Lord had told the prophet, Naaman, you got to go over by that tree and stand on your head. As long as Naaman would have done it, guess what? He would have been saved. He would have been made clean. Why? Because he trusted enough to do it. Maybe he didn't even trust the first 3 or 4 dips. But what could it hurt? It's a hot day. It's in the Middle East. Being nice and soaking wet for a little while, and it ain't your own sweat. It feels good, believe me. And he returned unto the man of God and all his company and came and stood before him. And he said, and this is the reason why I gave this passage here. Look what he says. Behold, now I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel. Now therefore I pray thee, take a blessing of thy servant. What has he just acknowledged? That the God of Israel is what? God. Look what the response. But he said, as the Lord liveth there, before whom I stand, I will receive none. And he urged him to take it, but he refused. The prophet of God could have had all that gold, all that silver, 10 changes of raiment. He had a fortune that the prophet could take. He said, no. Look what he gives here, verse 17. There's a reason why. Keep on going, don't worry. And Naaman said, shall there not then, I pray thee, be given unto thy servants 2 mules burdened of earth? With all that gold, with all that silver, with all the changes of raiment, why would you want 2 mules burdened of earth? Think about it. He said, the God of Israel. The God of Israel occupies this land that I'm standing on. Who's my God now in Naaman's eyes? Who? God of Israel. He wants to take his God back with him. That's why he's asking for the 2 mule loads of earth. What he does with it, I got no earthly idea. But what he is making a claim here is my God is not the God of the gods of Assyria, where he's from. My God, in his mind of that day and time, is actually this piece of earth. I am taking my God with me. That reminds you of the Holy Spirit, doesn't it? Coming in and dwelling in your heart. For thy servant will henceforth offer neither burnt offering nor sacrifice unto other gods, but unto the Lord. All those family idols that he has in his house that he's going to have to dump out now, you know, all those temples that he used to go to. If I'm going to sacrifice anything, who's he going to sacrifice? To the God of Israel. And oh, by the way, he doesn't have the Torah. He doesn't have anything else but that he knows that the God of Israel is the real God. That's all his knowledge. And he claims them. Because he's going to take some earth, not 1 mule, but 2 mules loaded, burdened down with dirt. I'm taking my God with me. Goes a step farther. And in this thing the Lord pardoned thy servant, that when with my master goeth into the house of Rimmon to worship there, that he leaneth on my hand, and I bow myself in the house of Rimmon. When I bow down myself in the house of Rimmon, the Lord pardoned thy servant in this thing. He is saying, because of my position, I got to take the old king to the pagan house and hold his arm, and he bows, and guess what? I got to bow with him. Please forgive me for that action. I am not worshiping that God. What does Elisha say? You terrible, rotten soul, you. No. And he said unto him, go in peace. So he departed from him a little way. And we won't read because I don't care about Gehazi and his silliness, but do you get the picture as far as salvation? It is somebody who recognizes who God is and takes him for his word. Now, in our day and time and economy, God says, look as far as what Christ did on the cross, and that's how we get saved. But the key is trusting God and believing that he will say what he says he will do. So how do you answer the question? Who goes to heaven? Speak up.
The people who believe and trust God.
Thank you. End of it. Sum total. Sum total. There is a God in heaven. I believe him. I trust him. That's it. The Lord's a pretty merciful God, isn't he? He don't make it so complicated. Because he knows if he made it complicated, we'd all screw it up. And none of us would get to heaven. Brother Jordan, would you close us in prayer?
Father, we thank you again for the chance to open up your word, Lord. We thank you that you were so gracious to us to sow the gospel of Jesus Christ throughout the entire scriptures, and we may know the simplicity of it. And thank you for making it simple enough that even dumb Irishman like me can get saved too. I pray that you help us as we go our separate ways, that we carry this with us, that those who are going through hard times, we may be able to help them see that salvation is just as simple for them as it is for us. And all who believe are eternally secure. Lord, we pray that you would help us as we come across other individuals to share that gospel with them. Lord, keep us safe as we go our separate